Okay, I think I'm live. Hi Erica, you probably heard me going, right, I'm going live. Hang on, I'm going to grab the heater because it's a little bit noisy. And just to be irritating, because it's already irritating me, I'm going to ram the hair up. Oh dear, okay. Hi Wendy. Yeah, he's alright. He looked absolutely shattered by the time we left him this evening. But they're trying him without the oxygen, and I think he struggled a bit more than he thinks he realised actually. But he was back to his moany old sweary self, so he's getting there. Okay, Erica, I don't know if you've read the thingy, don't use emojis. In fact, everybody, don't use emojis on the live feed, please. Because apparently there is a bug that YouTube are banning entire accounts. It's some sort of system bug that they're trying to fix. Please do not use emojis in the comments, because I don't want anyone getting banned because you're watching me. Yeah, I feel really crappy if that happens actually. So, yeah. What was wrong with him? Okay. 17 years ago, he had 2 duodenal ulcers burst and pretty much lost. So I'm sending something to myself. I need the reference. He had 2 duodenal ulcers burst, and that pretty much wrecked 60% of his stomach. And he's obviously had a lot of issues since then, but this time round apparently he had a load of ulcers. Sorry for anyone who's squeamish, by the way. You've not come here to listen to this, you come here to look at art. But he had some ulcers burst on his bowel, and basically everything that was leaking into his gut was making him very, very, very poorly. So he went in for emergency surgery. God, as soon as I go on live, my nose itches. He went in for emergency surgery. They've removed a portion of it, reattached the ends together. And obviously they're keeping an eye because there's a possibility of risk of infection and things like that. So he seemed really chipper when we went in earlier today. And then when we left, you could tell it had been a long day. He was exhausted. So we left him to it fairly early actually, so he could get some rest. I'm just cleaning my palette because my daughter has had hold of it, which means the colours are not supposed to be the colours that she's left them. Like my yellow is a manky browny green, where she's just got the brush and swiped across the whole lot. So give them a quick clean. So the basis of today's live feed is I asked my Patreon, so if you are a Patreon and you are active on the Patreon page, you would have seen the post where I asked what you would like to see on live feeds. And I gave this exclusively to Patrons for a reason, because of course they pay, so it's nice for them to have a little bit of an extra say. And somebody suggested a tiger. Rob actually, I think, suggested a tiger. And one of my other patrons asked if we could do something with a watercolour base, so that's what we're going to do today. Yeah, I hope so. They opened up the old scar, so bless him, he looks like an old rag doll that's been sewn together, but you know, they've kept him here, so that's what we want. So the reference you can see on the left hand side, I don't know how much we're going to get done today, because if I'm perfectly honest, I am absolutely exhausted, but I wanted to do this because I need some downtime, and this is my downtime. So yeah, I needed to do this really. So I found this picture. I thought I had more pictures of tigers than I did, but I don't, which is really annoying. So I got this one from Pixabay. So if you guys want to at any point have a go yourself, if you head to Pixabay and put in tiger, I think it actually comes up on the first or second page. I've pulled it over to me, but I haven't downloaded it. So I'm still waiting for a few people to log on and come and join us. So while I do that, I'm going to grab my reference. Save image. Oh, where did it go? Okay, so I'm just going to say it one more time while people are on. So Erica, could you be my emoji spotter, please? Because I'm obviously not going to be able to see everybody that posts. But please be aware not to use emojis on the live feed at the risk of your account being banned, not by me, but by a YouTube technical error. So please be aware. Come on phone, play ball please. Sorry guys, it's not what you want to sit here and watch, is me fighting. Anyway, I've just got my standard watercolour palette, which is my Winsor and Newton. So it's just a standard messy, because my kid had hold of it, watercolour palette. And I think we're going to, I'm not going to be extensive on the watercolour base, because where we have our black section that goes into our white section, we don't want it to be really dark underneath that I can't get the pencils in over the top, if that makes sense. So I'm going to probably use yellow ochre if I can find a clean section. I'm not going to water it down, I'm just going to put plenty of water on my brush. And I have got my hairdryer ready. I might need a bigger brush. I'm just going to fill the sections. I probably should have lightened my line work actually. Let me just lighten my line work quickly. The webcam is probably going to be a bit wobbly, so apologies if it does go a bit wobbly. We are going to try and work out whether or not it's ulcerative colitis, because my dad's being stubborn, and I don't blame him really, but he won't get tested. But both me and my sister were tested for the HBLA gene, and we've both tested positive, which means that we are at a higher risk of developing things like ulcerative colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, a specific type of arthritis, scoliosis, all that sort of stuff. So we have to be very careful. So if Dad ever goes into hospital with this type of stuff, we obviously need to get it checked, because worst case, it's hereditary, so more than likely me and my sister will end up with it as well. So yeah, we've got a lot to blame for our dad actually with regards to what we've inherited genetics wise. And I still aren't ready. Look, I'm totally not with it at all. Sorry guys. I want to tape up because I don't want the watercolour going anywhere it's not supposed to be. So I'm just using Scotch tape because it's really, really good. And then I'm putting it over my leggings. I'm just picking up some of the fleck off my leggings. And that is because when we come to take the tape off, it means there's less of a chance of it tearing or pulling up my paper. Where's the end? I'm going to show you a snippet as well of not this Friday but next Friday, the fur tutorial, because I've recorded that today. And I'll give you all a little sneaky peek. Very quiet today, isn't it? I wonder where everyone is. Whoops. Okay, just do the sides. So how is everybody? Me yabbering away, but how are you guys? Let's get some more Scotch tape actually. Okay, it's going to make it easier just to keep it tidy. Okay, I'm going to need a big brush. I don't know why I picked such a tiny brush out actually. Make sure it's clean because I've got bright purple on that one. Okay. So I'm just going to colour everywhere where the ochre needs to be. I don't know why I'm being so fussy about there. I need to make sure that I don't go under the white section, which sort of all stops around here. I'm still using the same paper, so I'm still using my Strathmore. There's something on that paper there because it's got a bit of a resist going on. So we can come up. So come on, think, where are we stopping? So that's black, that's black. So practically all of that I can go in with. And all under here, and it gets a bit lighter here. We've got his paw. You see, I'm not worried about it being completely smooth. I'm hoping I haven't, no, that's the white there, that's that bit. So hopefully all in here. There's something on there. I'm wondering whether that's my fingerprints. You can see how watercolour reacts really, really differently on this type of paper. Okay, so we've got the white underneath his eye up to here. Just trying to make sure where he has those white patches that I don't go over them. That needs to come much further down. In reality, it's not really much of a watercolour underpainting that you can do with a tiger. You can certainly go in with the black. It's going to aid a lot when it comes to the black pencil, so we can get a good coating of the black down, which will help. That's where we start leading into the white. So we want it very pale on our brush, and we've got a little bit of creamy colour here, which we can pop in. And all this bit's quite creamy, so we'll just spread the colour that we have already without then going too dark. It's actually darker under there than I've put in, so let's get that darker. I'm just going to make his nose a little darker. So it's going to warp your paper, so really you need to make sure that it's fully dry before you start going over with pencil. I'm going to put a very pale layer down in his eye. Like so. So that's enough really of where those yellow areas need to be. Hi Vicky. How are you? It's very quiet today. Okay, now we can go in with black. Or in my case, it'll be, I think it's almost like the Payne's Grey, because my kid has wiped my black out, so I need to get some more. So this is where you can have a little bit more of what you can put in, and you'll see things start to make sense a little bit. So down here, again, I'm only going to put it very rough because our pencils are the things that are going to do the work. You can be as precise as you want to be, but I tend to be a bit rougher with my stuff when I do this sort of thing. I'm just going backwards and forwards over the paint that's already there. It's just going to help a little bit with the fur movement. Hi, thank you. Also with it being the grey, it's not going to be such a stark finish either. So with his eye, for example, we're going to go, there's something on this paper that's resisting this watercolour, so I'm glad we're not doing the whole thing. I'm not going to risk doing his pupil. I want to do his pupil. I've been really loose with the details that I've put down, so I think with his pupil I want to do all of that by pencil really. I don't want to run the risk of ruining it, so okay, we've got a bit in there, a bit in here, a bit in there, we've got some up here. You see how rough I'm being. All I'm really doing is indicating where these areas are. I know it doesn't look like I'm doing a lot, but it does help when you come to put the pencil over top. You've already got that bit of base underneath. Hi Catherine. Wow, now you can. It'll be up on the ether forever hopefully, and you'll be able to come backwards and forwards and have a go. I'm just doing the watercolour base because it was suggested by one of my patrons that they wanted to sort of see. I'm really bad. I can't even remember who it was. This week's just been a blur with my dad, so apologies if I seem off or strange. But yeah, that's the reason why. Okay, so we've got, that's probably wet enough for me to put my, wet enough? Dry enough. Okay, for those that have just logged on, please don't use any emojis in the comments. YouTube apparently is having a technical issue. You run the risk of having your account banned if you use emojis. I don't know what's going on, but it's a technical thing. And I don't want any of you guys getting banned because you're having fun on my live feed. So just be careful. Please, thank you muchly. So all these sections I'm keeping here are sections that need to stay either white or eventually will become like a creamy colour. So that's why I'm not going into them at all, because I don't want to have an undertone there if I can't alter it. I shouldn't need to alter it, but still. So yeah, I'm going to work on the left side. Then we can work a little bit in pencil, so we're not doing the whole thing in watercolour and then you're having to wait ages just to see the pencil application. He's got some quite unusual markings on him actually. The amount of tigers I've done, he's got some in unusual places. Okay, so all this up here. If you wanted to make the layers darker, that is completely up to you. I'm just showing you how the technique can work for you, but it's up to you how you want it done basically. So, you know, you can be really rich with your undercoating or you can be really light with your undercoating. So it's just a case of having a play and seeing what you prefer. A bit dark. All it means is that it should render up a bit quicker. It's just something about tigers, isn't there? Okay, that's probably as much as I'm going to do on the black. I'm going to bring some of that cream down though, and I'm going to do it with the smaller brush just so I don't go too crazy. And we can afford this entire area. Just try not to go into your black, otherwise you're going to start bleeding it out, so be warned. Don't quite know what I've done there, but somehow managed to get some paint where I don't want it. If you ever end up with paint where you don't want it, just add some water on top. Leave it for a few seconds. And then just pull it out with a tissue. Or a clean brush. And we call it a thirsty brush if you haven't watched me before. And then it just helps release some of that. So I'm going to very quickly go over with the hairdryer. So apologies for the noise, but we're just going to make sure that it is 100% dry. That's certainly dry enough for me to work on. If you're going to use the hairdryer, try and put it on cold setting. It's not so much the heat that dries it, it's more the chair, stay where you were. More the air circulating. So let's zoom you in and let's crack on with an eye, shall we? So if I wanted to, I could go much more extensive and come in and add a lot more colour with the paintbrush, but for tonight I'm not going to do that. What I might do next week is when things have calmed down a little bit in the house and everywhere else, I might look at doing a bit more extensive on the other side, but for the time being I'm just gonna, this is how we're going to play it. I need, so it's quite cold black on the inside. So what we're going to do, let me move the camera angle slightly, you might get a better view. So all of this under here is very cold. So you can see how easy it is to go over where that watercolour area was. If you wanted to again, you could get a thin paintbrush and you could just put these little areas of fur detail in there with your paintbrush, but you don't have to. Yeah, it's really entirely up to you, but it goes on like a dream. I think actually because the watercolour almost gives the paper a bit more of a texture, so it holds onto the pencil, I think, quite nicely. So it draws that, what's the word, pigment, that's the word I'm looking for. I ideally need green, but I have a feeling I don't have a green, so I'm gonna, well, I need the blue anyway for the highlight in his eye. If we bring that down in this section, and then I'm going to bring the yellow in, then I won't need to go and hunt for a green. There we go. Does it all for me. So I'm going to use the dark indigo to place all of the shadows that you get, the reflective shadows. Right, what I'm going to do, bear with me one moment. Come on. If you see this camera suddenly come over and start recording, it is because I am recording. It's a watercolour base. I was asked by one of my patrons if I could show them how to do it with a watercolour base. So the point of tonight's live tutorial is to show you how a watercolour base can work with colour pencil over the top. So we're at the very sort of beginning stages at the moment. So this is essentially going to be part one. I imagine part two we'll be able to finish next week. Depending on, actually I might even think that this will take over 3 tutorials. We'll see how we go, but yeah. Fingers crossed. Right, so bear with me one moment. I just need to if you hear some weird random noise happening in a minute, that is me. And I just need to do my share out in a moment. Thank you, thank you, Erica, for sharing into the art share group, because I saw that you did that. So I'm just going to do the share out here. Two seconds. Right, okay. But yeah, I reckon more than likely it's probably going to take, what are we looking at? I would have thought actually it'd be a 3-hour tutorial, but there's no way that I can actually go on for that long tonight. So I'm going to use dark sepia for the areas that I don't want to be any colder, but we still want to build up some depth before I go in with the black, and the dark sepia will do that for me. I've been called many names. Honestly, I don't know actually how my brain is functioning right now. I really don't know. It's just been one hell of a week, and I'm very grateful that I am currently half fit and half healthy, and grateful that my dad is obviously making a, well, I say good recovery, a slow but steady recovery. Okay, there we go. That's all the shares done. That's all I'm going to do today. Yeah, they don't take long. Eyes really don't take long to render up. I think, I don't know whether it's an experience thing, but I find that they don't take long at all. Just using my ivory to blend because I want that eye to be as smooth and as glassy as possible. And the way to do that is reduce as much as you can in the way of pencil lines. There's no way I'm going to be exact to the reference at the minute. I'm just sort of not going in my own direction, but I'm not being exact, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. So even the luminance, you can see how well the luminance works over the black watercolour. So there is a lot of scope. I'm going to be doing a portrait soon. It won't be a watercolour base, but it will be a marker base. But I'll have to do one soon, a standard portrait where we try it with the... Okay, I've noticed that we've lost some of the eye, so I'm going to use the luminance to bring back a little bit. Oh, chair keeps moving. The only thing is with the luminance is you can't really, in my opinion, go over the top very easily. And when we come to do the first strokes in here, then we've got, see what I mean about not going into that white with the watercolour, so it just makes it easier. Yeah, I sort of am actually. These are the days where you wish you had a car to go and do the school run because you just want to be home that sort of 10 minutes earlier because you just want to put your feet up and enjoy the 5 minutes that you get before you've got to go on and do the next thing. Right, I'm going to now go in with the black because we want to strengthen the reflective shadows in the eyes. I'm quite happy with that eye, it's come out really nice. shine to it that I wanted it to have. The only thing is, I think we want to bring in, there we go, that's better. I think we can afford to actually bring in a bit more blue. It's not exact, but I'm happy. So I'm probably going to go in with the cold grey 1 for the base of any of the white sections. So let's go underneath his eye. And let's just go in with the cold grey 1. And I've swept over the whole lot. Can you hear me okay? Because I've realised that the microphone is a bit further away than normal. Let me move you forward a bit. Oh, this is the, not next week, the week after. This is the new tutorial that's going to be up, and it's recorded real time for you, and it takes less than an hour. So there's no excuses. Get practicing when those videos come up. Okay, so if you're new to watching me now and you want to do these tutorials, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell button to get the notification for all. And the numbers have gone up slightly, so again, sorry to repeat myself. Please don't use any emojis in the comments today because YouTube have a technical issue at the minute, which means that your account can get banned if you use emojis. I bet it is. Okay, right, now when you come to do the hairs underneath the animal's eye, because you can see individual hairs, I'm going to build them up using probably the warm grey 3. 3 or 4? Should I use 4? No, let's use, no, cold grey even, not warm. Find the pencil sharp, my woman. Okay, and we're going to build up the layers, and we're going to just nice motions towards the outer part of the eye. So, cool, brilliant. As I've mentioned in numerous tutorials, fur direction is probably the biggest priority when you do an animal. You can have an animal in any colour, in any tone, any hue, any range, even cartoony, it doesn't matter. If you want it to look like an animal, then you really need to make sure that your fur goes in the right direction. You could have the most beautiful looking animal in the world, and if you put the fur in the wrong direction, it's just going to not work. That's the thing, Wendy. It is easy. There's too much black here, so this is what I meant about me going to black. So I don't know if there's a way for me, apart from using a Posca pen. Let me go over with the luminance to dull that right down. In fact, it might work to my advantage. I would like to take on the challenge one day. I don't know who's going to do it, or when, or where, or how, or even why. But I would say that I could probably teach anybody to draw. With time and patience, anybody can draw. So where we've got the paint here already, we're going to work on top of that, and we're just going to bring our shadows into the light area, It's easier to work into the light area than try and bring the lights out. Although, if you saw, it works very well on top of the watercolour when you push light outwards as well. That's the advantage of having a watercolour base. Let me sharpen my white poly instead of keep using my luminance. And I don't know how well you're going to see it. Oh, itchy nose. So if I go over this patch here, you can see how easy it is to draw over the top. So you could do a whole page of black watercolour and then just go over a pencil on the top. So if you want to ever have a go at doing a portrait on black paper but don't have any, then just get some paint. So I keep picking up that and I don't want that. I want my dark sepia. So the dark sepia is what we're using. We're drawing, as I say, itchy nose in to the light area, and I'm lifting my pencil where I want to stop. That comes all the way up here. I want my, let's use the cold grey 3 for the minute. It's not going to be dark enough yet. No, it won't be dark enough at all. Dark indigo, where are you? There. We're going to use dark indigo underneath. Now where'd that blue go? That blue's going to look lush over the top of that. He's quite blue on his eye underneath, so I'm going to use that on top. That's what we want. I'm still using the Strathmore 300 series Bristol board. Because you don't go heavy with the watercolour, the Bristol board handles it reasonably well. Just use a hairdryer. Ideally you want to dry both sides of the paper because it really helps to stop the warping. But I've done so little already and it's built up really quickly. As long as it's a good surprise, I can't handle any more bad ones. Okay, I'm going to go in with the black. In fact, that needs to come out a bit more. We need to be... Let's go over with the white and then we can fill that in with the blue, and then I'll deal with the actual detail of that when we come round to this side. So yeah, I'm just moving in with the black now. There. You don't want to come out too far in certain areas. I mean, obviously follow your reference, but you don't always get the blacks coming right out into the whites. That's what you've got to be careful of. And what you want to do is either get your white or your lightest of your grey. So in my case, cold grey 1, and I'm not going to sharpen it. And then I'm then going to drag what I've drawn out into that area, and what it does is it softens the pencil line so it looks much more blended. Dark sepia again. Again, all these pencil colours may vary. It really depends on what reference picture you end up drawing. So don't don't be guaranteed that what I'm offering up today is exactly what you're going to need to use, so just bear that in mind. But what this shows also is, I've always said that I never like to leave areas of paper completely white. I like to have colour on them, because very rare, if you ever used a dropper tool or anything like that, it's very rare that anything's actually going to be white. A lot of the time it's got some sort of tone to it, whether it's a pale yellow, a pale grey, so just bear that in mind really. So if I start bringing the ochre in, so it means I can go over the watercolour now, and I haven't got to worry about keep strengthening my shadows. So if you followed any of my tutorials before, especially on Patreon, and I've mentioned about having to keep strengthening your shadow areas or your blacks in a tiger, for example, you don't have to keep doing that, because it's going to take a long time before you start to lose the black of a watercolour. So it's just a really good way of speeding up the whole process really. We want the first strokes to be a bit longer here, but again we're ensuring that they are going in the right direction. Strengthen that bit down there. Dark sepia. We're just going to strengthen the shape, so this comes all the way out. Looks like I've missed a shape right in here. Just going to add that in. So you don't have to get the shapes precise, but you do, as I say, have to get the fur going in the right direction. So that's really the most important thing. When you, all the people that have watched previous fur tutorials are aware that whenever you do fur strokes, we don't have them in straight little soldiers. We have them going in variable directions. That's the best way to get it as realistic looking as possible. Hi Emily. I can solidify, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, this section in here now, because I know that that's pretty solid in that particular section, and the same down here when I come to it. So at the moment he's very yellow, and quite often when we think about a tiger we don't necessarily think yellow, 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 but we tend to use, or I find that when I've looked at people do these before, they tend to use a lot of this sort of tone, but actually there's quite a lot of red in their fur as well, so we have to make sure we add that. So the first thing I'm going to do is use the caput mortuum. That gives us that nice red tone, but you can also use things like, I'd probably be inclined to use walnut for some of the areas. But that caput mortuum is just enough to lift and alter that colour. And then I'm going to go in with my ivory. And I'm going to blend over the whole lot. And that gives you, I suppose what I would refer to as, I don't even know how I would refer to it, almost like, if you imagine like, I don't know if you know much about chinchillas, but chinchillas have two, if I'm remembering correctly, have two layers of fur. And that's essentially what you want to draw when you draw fur. You need to have depth, and I really need a drink. Oh, it's not working. Bell's not working. Yeah, you really need to have that depth with fur to get them looking really fluffy and really dense. And the way to do that is do a bit of blending in between your layers. He's probably got his headphones on, so he can't hear. And there's a big wad of blue tack on the bottom, which isn't going to help either. I'm just going to go thirsty then. Okay, so I'm going to strengthen it a little bit with the dark sepia again. And then I can go in again with the ochre. Now what I am going to try, because this is a first for me, is the slice tool on top, because of course we've got much fewer layers than we would have normally. In fact, we might not even need the slice tool. I wonder if we can get away. No, I'm going to try it with the slice. I don't need many in there, but I do want some. Yeah, I didn't think it would work very well. We don't have enough layers on. It is taking some out. I know what I'll do. I'll text the man. We'll see if that works, shall we? There's my reference. Okay, you can also use, as long as you don't go too overboard, things like cinnamon or the medium flesh. Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, so you could use those as an alternative. Somehow he's either can't stop. Right, what's going on here? This needs to come across more. So this black has been put in the wrong place, so we're going to have to work around that. If you guys are happy for me to go and get a quick glass of water, just say yes or something. I don't want to leave you and abandon you all. Okay, I'm totally doing these all the wrong way. I'm showing you how to badly draw right now. That's that bit. Okay. So, have you started? Yeah, it's all, you might have to go back through to the beginning. I need to move the angle a little bit as well, don't I? There you go. Yeah, so I did the water base earlier in the live feed to show you how easy it is to use a water base for doing this type of drawing. You've got quite short fur. Essentially, when you're doing fur on a tiger with the stripes, if you think about it as the fur length is generally from the black to the black, especially up around the head and the top of the head section. So I find that sometimes the easiest way to gauge how long the fur length should be on a tiger there. So it's not an exact science, but it gives you a bit of an idea. Right, I need to go and get a drink. I'll be as quick as I can. Water in hand. Oh dear. His phone is probably upstairs on charge, but he's got his headphones in playing his game, so. Right, okay, so where I could have extended the watercolour section up to here, but I won't worry about that now, so we'll just very lightly shade over with the burnt ochre. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this, because you know when your throat feels like you're coming down with something, so hopefully I won't. You're not the only one, hun. It quite often doesn't notify people and it drives me crazy. The best thing to probably do is just check your notification settings. And do you have notification for all set? Not just, like Facebook gives you various options, doesn't it? I know that with YouTube, to 100% guarantee that you get the notifications, you have to have it set to all. You can do it on individual channels, so you won't end up getting bombarded by every channel that you watch, so don't worry about that. You can tell what sort of mood I'm in because of the sporadic way that I'm drawing. Hubby asked me last night if I needed any supplies for my drawing. Where do I begin? Yes, where do I roll off this big list of art supplies? I keep picking up my white thinking it's my, there we are, that's not even it. Yes it is. Right, I'm going to go over that bit there and we're going to come down here. I don't know what section to work on. Let's work on his upper eye section. I like working on these bits because I like getting all the individual hairs and things to show. So let's do that. So I'm going to use dark sepia to begin with on all the dark sections. Trying to keep the camera angle at a sensible angle for you guys. So my paper's drunk on my desk, but it's still straight for you. zoom in a bit because that would be helpful, Bonnita. Okay, so I'm using the dark indigo underneath, then I will probably use the dark sepia, and then I will go in with the black. Again, I'm going in random directions, and because the base is already down, I haven't got to worry about having quite a solid section there. Again, the shape is a little bit different to the reference picture, but again, it's not a problem. So hopefully you can see my pencil motion is very, I'm going to say that word again, very sporadic. Yeah, you can. That's why it takes a lot to build up. So what you're seeing here are the really very basic layers. We're far from done yet. So you can wash them out. You just have to be either do very light layers, or you would actually do a proper underpainting. That's entirely up to you how you want to do it. So if you get a nice fine brush, you could just wash the very edges out so it becomes much lighter. But where we're still in the very early stages, you are going to see a lot of that watercolour underneath. So if I go in with the dark sepia now, some people do like to go straight in with black, and that's absolutely fine, entirely up to you, but I like to build up, because when you get the different strands of hair that come out, you get the different tonal values, the different colours. So it's worth just having a few different colours underneath it. So we're going to work on this section here. So this section here is going to show you how eventually you end up eradicating the look of the watercolour underneath. Like this section here, you can't tell that this section here had watercolour underneath it. We need to come all the way out. The best thing to do is actually underpaint slightly shorter. So if you have a patch that's this big, rather than have it this big, make it this big. So as you draw out your fur areas, you're drawing over your line. So this section here is actually much bigger than how I painted it, which is why we're then able to push our pencil over the top and eventually get rid of the fact that it looks like there's watercolour there. I did, yes. It's in my drawer, I think. Yeah, managed to finish him on the live feed. So here, this section here, you can't tell that that's a watercolour under base. That's all right. I've been called worse. So we can then very lightly start streaming in our shadow areas into the first strokes. I mean, if it gets to the end of it and I think, okay, I really wanted some more highlight or something in there, then that's when I can go in, if needed, with things like the brush and pencil. I am going to try the slice tool again here, just to see what happens. Okay, so I did have a bit more colour down there. Yes, you can pull out patches, that's fine. That's good to know. There we go. So we want to be, I would say just bringing in a bit of warm grey in this section. Might even need to be darker than that. And there's not enough of a stop here. There needs to be a bit more of a stop. The only thing that I've done wrong here is this section of the eye, which now I can go over with the white pencil is actually fine. So ignore that. But yes, I had gone too high with the watercolour. But if you look how easy that was to repair, just don't panic. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen if you muck up a picture? You just have to draw it again. I'm going to blend over the top with the white instead this time because I don't want to add any more grey to this section. So I'm just blending over with the white to soften that pencil down. Hi, Regina. Don't use emojis if you haven't seen my post already. There's a hiccup with YouTube. If people use emojis, you run the risk of the computer or whatever it is they use banning you. So just be careful. Okay. Going with the cold grey again. I'm going to sweep up and over what I've got the white in my hand over on this, because it's quite bitty, these particular black areas. See, it's easy to tone it down. See, even there, just from doing that, you wouldn't know that that's watercolour. It has warped my paper still. It would help if I actually just taped it down or blue tacked it, to be honest. I'm not doing myself any favours really, but oh good. I'm just going to pin it down. It actually stops me hurting my wrist as well, because I tend to put pressure on it holding it still. Okay, that'll do. What you can do is, if your paper's warped and you can't get it back, spray the back of your paper, not this side. Spray the back of your paper with water. Use a hairdryer, then flatten it under some books, but don't do it on this side. But still went to put a smile. Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it, when you're used to it. It just shows actually how much we use emojis. So as I say, when you come up into the fur, you want to lift your pencil off the paper. Now in the reference, you don't actually see much in the way of fur detail up in these sections, but I personally prefer to add those details in. That's just my preference, because I like them to look as soft and fluffy as possible. We've actually got a section of yellow ochre coming up into here as well. We've got four black eyebrows, which I'm going to have to try and put in with a steady hand. Ha ha ha. This comes up a bit more, so we can afford to bring that up. The Strathmore 300 series smooth, my normal paper. It holds up quite well to watercolour as long as you don't flood the paper. Right, we've got little odd sort of bits that stick out on this one. It's not a smooth line, so I'm just extending some of these lines down a bit to give them a bit of a more natural looking shape. Okay, I'm thinking I'm going to use a grey 3, making sure I've got 3 here. I'm going to use the cold grey 3, and I don't know how well it's going to translate down the camera because it is quite light, but oh, the itch. It's the cold grey 3 I'm going to use to add the fur detail. As I say, because I want extra detail in this particular one, because I think once he's finished and once we've built his layers up, he's going to look really, really lovely and fluffy. Okay. So I'm going to attempt, I'm going to do it with dark, no, grey 6. I keep thinking I'm picking up the dark sepia and it's not. Okay, so we have an eyebrow coming from here that is going down. We have one that goes across into there. We have one that goes up. It's not smooth as I wanted. We've actually got 6. We've got one that comes up there and we've got one that comes up there. It's not as wobbly as that, but I seem to have the shakes today, so now I've got the, they generally tend to be thicker towards the head and then they get thinner as you go out, so I'm just using the black to extend that, and if I want to clean anything up, I'm just going to bring the white in down the side. Right, that's irritating me, that one. Let's see if we can get that bit thinner. That's better. Okay, so we've been 1 hour 13 and we've got majority of the base done in paint, and we've got this little section here. I know I've stopped and started a little bit, so it wouldn't be as long if you concentrate on what you're doing and just cracking on with it. Okay, I need to move him. Easier for me. I like to turn my page when I work, but it means I have to keep turning the camera so it's not so squiff. Whoops, for you guys. Realised why his eyes looking awkward to me, because that is white in there and I can bring that out. There we go, that's better. And we're going to bring the cap up. And this is really why there are so many ugly stages to drawings, because they simply are not as quick as getting 2 or 3 layers down and then you're done. giving some of the areas a bit more of a solid form. I've always said don't be afraid to have solid clumps of fur anywhere that doesn't have lots and lots of detail, because it's much more realistic looking that way, so that's what I'm doing. Hi Leslie. So when it comes to his nose, I really need to show you that on properly. Do you know, it may even take 4 live feeds. It's up to you if you want me to continue this as a live feed over the next few weeks, because it is going to take a long time to do. So it's entirely up to you really. I don't know if you get bored of seeing the same tiger after about 4 weeks, because I think this is going to take many hours. I'd love to be one of those artists that can get stuff done in like 3 hours, but it just takes me forever. Okay, we've got a patch in here that I hadn't done in the watercolour underneath, so I'm just going to add that in now. It's not a problem because it's actually quite subtle. It's looking really dark. Where I'm covering, you can see how much darker it is from when I'm covering the light. It's very annoying. Wrong one. Okay, so let's work on getting this bit. In here is quite solid, so I'm going to colour that in quite a solid colour. Oh, I saw that one too. It's amazing. No, you're absolutely right, Leslie. Yeah, it is a big portion of it. Needs to actually come out. I've got to bring this out further, but this still needs to come out a bit further, I think. definitely going to be a slow going one, so I don't even mind getting a certain part of the head done before we do the next live tutorial, but yeah, I suppose we'll see how we go, really. Right, in here, I need to get that in, and the reason being is it marks where the darkest parts. So, as I said earlier, this bit is in the wrong place, this angle, and there's nothing I can do about that at the moment. So make sure that you have everything down correctly before you go and put your watercolour down, otherwise you end up making the same mistake. Oh, nearly. That would have been interesting. So you can barely see any fur on this particular section. I'm starting to go off camera slightly. So I can pretty much coat over the top of that quite easily. There's always a white section underneath the portion of the nose, so you need to make sure that you keep that. So the only bit of direction we can see is going from probably 1 o'clock down to 7 o'clock. So if you want to put any in, you need to keep it really short. So I don't know if you can hear that very well. But that's how quick and short you want to be. And from here upwards, it's actually a little curve, so I'm just going to gently draw that in. And we've got one there, so when we come down to doing this area, what did I miss? What did Maggie put? Oh. See, what did we do without emojis? Oh yeah, we talked to each other face to face. And then we could see that people were smiling. It's funny, isn't it, how we've come to rely on these things so much nowadays. So that is all you need to do, just little tiny strokes in that direction. I know it may not look a lot, but when you, I mean, you're zoomed right in. So when you zoom out, look at the difference to when you're zoomed right in to when you're zoomed out, to how soft and fluffy he looks. Everything looks messy when you are zoomed in and you're looking at it closely. I don't need a lot of the caput mortuum. I'm just going to do it here and there, and then what I'm going to do is, you'll see me do this a lot on the, not this week's, but next week's fur tutorial. You'll see me do it a lot on this one, and there's a lot of blending that goes on with either a white or the ivory, and I'm going to do no different on this as well. So And then we're just going to blend over. Thank you. Okay, so we want to get these looking a bit more natural, this one here. So where there is on these two, for example, they're not just the flat black. So I'm going to need to see if I can do this without snapping my lead. I always do it on the white. Always does it on the white. So we're just going to very gently bring some over. I'm going to try not to press too hard. But he's got some quite long light areas that go over, and this one goes all the way over, so we can literally go from one side to the other. And again, it just gives it that much more natural feel. A little bit of orange that sits around there, not too much. But the amount of work that's going to be taken out for the nose area is going to be huge. It's going to be far, far less for me to have to do, so that's always a good thing. I mean, when we come to the nose, it's going to be quite extensive and it is going to take a long time. Oh, I've done it again. Only if it does it on the white. There we go. Okay, this sort of portion here is very much between the black and the white, and there is a little bit of, I would probably actually only use either walnut or dark sepia. No, Van Dyke Brown, I mean, sorry. Yeah, just, it's in this section here. I'm just going to do a very quick sweep of colour. You could probably get away with a warm grey, to be honest, but you okay camera angle wise? Let's move you again. Okay, and again we're just flicking out very sharpening. Flicking out. Again, we cross right over to the other side as well, so there's not much difference in it. So we just do that all the way down, different directions. As I mentioned earlier, it's easier to go into the lighter section than trying to get the light to go into the darker section. Hi. And again, if you want, you can bring your white in and you can just go in random, not so much up here because I don't need to, but certainly down here where it gets thinner, you can come over with your white and go in random areas. You don't need it this absolute stark white either. So what we want to do is work on blending these edges out. So we're just going to come in a bit stronger with some of those. Again on the other side. So when we then go over with our black, it should start to make the edges of that watercolour disappear. Go again from this side. We've actually got some quite long, it goes all the way up on this side, so we can get away with actually having quite good fun getting some really long ones going up into those areas. Winsor & Newton, I just used the palette I have from Winsor & Newton, and I used the yellow ochre for the base, and because my kiddos used up most of my black, I don't have any black left. I only use the Payne's grey really for these dark areas. So this is all going to look really, really messy for a long time until I get over here and I start doing that section of the fur. So if you've watched a good portion so far, you can see actually how messy they do start off with, but eventually they do start to make sense. As I say, you could be a lot more detailed than I was at the beginning. It's entirely up to you how much information you want to get down with the watercolour. Okay. What's the first thing you do when doing a dog portrait? I've got one with curly fur and struggling with drawing it out. Do you have a video on how to draw curly fur in graphite? I don't on YouTube. There may actually be one in my Facebook Live archives. Let me read the next bit. What's your view on tracing? I don't want to resort to that, as I think I might have to. I have no problem with tracing at all. It's entirely up to the artist how they want to get their work down, especially with pet portraits. I'm a stickler for making sure that everything is exactly where it should be. I can freehand without a problem, but when it comes to pets and things like that, I do tend to use trace down method. I haven't got a problem with it. I'm not going to get into it now, but there is actually a whole video on this subject in my video section if you wanted to have a watch, because it might make you feel a bit better about using the trace down method. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Oh, hi Carol. I do want to ask you though, what do you consider curly fur? Because I get asked this question so many times, and actually, I'm not saying yours is the case, but actually a lot of people say curly fur, but it's not, it's wavy, and there's a big difference. A poodle is a curly furred dog. A wavy fur are things like, and you're going to ask me, and I'm not going to remember a single dog name, so throw them out there, peeps, in the comment. Things like, oh my god, my head. Springer Spaniels, they've got quite wavy ears. Dogs like that, no, I can't think today. That's the sort of thing that I would consider wavy, not curly. So it really depends on the breed of your dog. Okay, I would trace it down. I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. I would trace it down. Ignore what everyone else thinks. It's not down to them how you work. It's not down to them what they think of, and I've lost the camera. It's not down to them to criticise. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Shih Tzu, yeah. Spaniel, absolutely. Yeah, all those types of ones. Trying to think. I'm absolutely sure there is some on my Facebook lives, but it does mean trawling through, unfortunately. I will be adding to my Fur Friday, and I will be doing some graphite series in there as well. There is actually, if you haven't watched my Fur Fridays, there is a wavy fur already on there, so please do go and watch that if you haven't already. There's a Fur Friday playlist, so you don't have to trudge through the whole lot. It's on the playlist. So, yeah, definitely have a look. Right, guys. I'm not feeling the hottest right now, and I think we're probably... Oh, come on, cameras. Stay where you are and do as you're told. You're not going to, are you? I'm going to leave it there for tonight. We've done a good hour 40. I know I normally do a couple of hours, but yeah, I'm really tired. So sorry to cut this short. And I know it doesn't look like we've done a huge amount, but actually when you look back, we've done quite a lot of layering. So it's quite a nice little portion so far. So have a good morning, afternoon, whichever it may be, guys, and I shall see you on the other side. Bye.